Hi, this is Reddit Confessions channel. My name's Nathan Crowley, and for most of my marriage, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. At least that's what I convinced myself when I ignored the late nights, the business trips that stretched on longer than planned, and the text messages from unfamiliar names. But the night everything came crashing down wasn't a night I expected anything less than pride. It was a Friday, and my wife, Eleanor, had just landed a major account at her former boutique marketing agency in the heart of Boston. Her boss decided to throw a private celebration at a historic mansion they rented for the evening. High ceilings, grand staircases, and chandeliers that looked like they belonged in a museum. Eleanor insisted you come. You've been my rock through all of this, she told me, flashing that bright, persuasive smile that used to convince me of anything. I stood near the open bar, nursing a whiskey, watching as she floated through the room like she owned it. Everyone adored her, men, women, even the waitstaff. I didn't mind. I loved seeing her shine. That's when a man I'd never met approached. He had slick back hair, a tie a little too tight for his smug face. His name was Oliver Chase. He was a senior strategist at her company, and from the way he leaned in close to Eleanor whenever he spoke, it was clear he considered himself something more than a colleague. At first, I played it cool. I shook his hand, forced a smile, but then came the moment that made the air go cold. During the toast, when the champagne glasses clinked and all eyes turned to Eleanor, Oliver raised his glass and said, loud and clear, to Eleanor, for proving that some women really can have it all, a brilliant career and a man patient enough to stay out of her way while she does the real work. Laughter rippled through the crowd, but it wasn't the kind of laughter you want to hear. It was sharp and mocking. Eleanor laughed too easily, brushing Oliver's arm as if it was just harmless fun. And in that moment, standing under a glittering chandelier in a room full of people who didn't even realize they were burying me alive, something inside me shifted. I didn't explode. I didn't make a scene. I simply watched. I watched the way Oliver looked at her when he thought I wasn't paying attention. I watched the way Eleanor leaned in a little closer than necessary. I watched the way their eyes met, like they shared a secret I wasn't supposed to know. I realized then that I wasn't crazy for doubting her. All those nights I sat alone at home while she stayed late at work. I realized that sometimes the most dangerous betrayal doesn't come with screaming and broken dishes. It comes quietly, hidden behind champagne, toasts, and practiced smiles. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be the clueless husband in the background anymore. If they thought they were clever, I was about to show them that some games end differently than expected. Because while Oliver was busy making toasts and Eleanor was busy keeping secrets, I was already laying the groundwork to make them both regret ever underestimating me. And trust me, regret was only the beginning. The ride home from the celebration was suffocating. Eleanor sat in the passenger seat, scrolling through her phone, laughing at something she wasn't showing me. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white under the dim dashboard light. Every now and then, she would glance at me, offer a distracted smile, and say things like, "You were a hit tonight," or "Everyone thought you were hilarious." But it all felt rehearsed, like a script she was tired of pretending to care about. When we pulled into the driveway, she leaned over, kissed my cheek, and disappeared inside without waiting for me. I sat there for a long moment, the engine ticking as it cooled, feeling like I was a guest in my own life. Inside, the house was spotless, cold, too quiet. Eleanor had already disappeared upstairs, probably answering Oliver's text under the guise of wrapping up work emails. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to confront her with no proof. I was smarter than that. Instead, I got to work. Over the next few days, I started noticing things I would have once dismissed. Her new perfume, heavy and sweet, something she never wore for me. the locked phone screen whenever I entered the room, the sudden insistence on private meetings at odd hours. But what really grabbed my attention was the way she started treating me, not with anger or distance, but with a kind of polite indifference, as if I was some well-meaning neighbor she no longer had the energy to impress. I decided to test a theory. One night, I told her I'd booked us a weekend getaway, just the two of us, a quiet cabin in the mountains. No phones, no work, no distractions. Her smile froze on her face for half a second too long before she said, "That sounds amazing, but this isn't a good time at work." I nodded, playing along, but something inside me steeled. If work was such a priority, why was she smiling at her phone late at night like a teenager texting her crush? Why did these so-called strategy meetings now involve weekends? I wasn't about to play the fool anymore. I contacted an old friend of mine, Alex, a guy who used to run low-level security setups, but had a knack for tracking digital footprints. Within hours, he rigged a discreet tracker on Eleanor's car, something so small she'd never notice. He showed me how to monitor her location from an app that looked like a regular weather service. For the next 2 weeks, I said nothing. I smiled when she said she was working late. I kissed her forehead when she claimed she was too tired for a dinner date. And I watched the little blue dot on my phone drift to places that had nothing to do with her office. Restaurants on the other side of town, private residences tucked away in gated neighborhoods, hotels. One night, a Tuesday, when she said she was pulling an all-nighter with the team, I watched her location settle at a boutique hotel downtown nowhere near her office. I didn't call. I didn't text. I simply sat there, staring at the screen, feeling nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a cold, mechanical clarity. They thought they were clever. They thought they could play me for a fool. But they forgot something crucial. I wasn't the man who sat quietly at the back of the room anymore. I wasn't the man who swallowed every excuse and clapped at every hollow achievement. I was the man who was about to flip the script. And when I was done, Oliver Chase and my so-called wife would know exactly how it felt to be humiliated, not with screaming, not with fists, but with precision, with patience, and with a vengeance so polite they wouldn't even see it coming until it was far too late. The next morning, Eleanor acted as if everything was perfectly normal. She kissed me goodbye, mentioned something about an important lunch meeting, and disappeared in a flurry of high heels and expensive perfume. I sat at the kitchen table, watching the clock tick, my mind already racing through the plan I had been crafting for days. I wasn't going to confront her directly. That would be too easy for her to twist, to deny. No. I needed undeniable proof, not just for myself, but for what was coming next. I called Alex again and told him I needed a favor. A bigger favor this time: cameras, recordings, evidence that couldn't be explained away. Within a day, we had a setup, a discreet camera disguised as a phone charger placed inside her car, another tiny device sewn into the lining of her work bag. Technology, as it turns out, has a way of stripping away every layer of a lie. I didn't have to wait long. That Friday night, Eleanor claimed she was attending a team-building event. I nodded, handed her her bag, kissed her cheek, and told her to have fun. As soon as she pulled out of the driveway, I opened the app Alex had installed for me. The screen split into 2 feeds, one from the car, one from her bag, both transmitting live. At first, it was innocent enough. She drove downtown, parked near a sleek cocktail lounge, and met up with a group of co-workers. I watched her hug a few women and then Oliver, a long, lingering hug, the kind you don't give to someone who's just a colleague. I kept watching as the night wore on, drinks flowed, laughter echoed, but something about their body language told me everything I needed to know. Then, right around midnight, the feed from her bag caught something that changed everything. In the back booth of the lounge, Oliver slid into the seat beside her, instead of across from her. He whispered something into her ear. She laughed that same breathy, flirty laugh she used to say for me. Then she leaned in and kissed him. Not a peck, not a joke. A real kiss, deep, familiar. I sat back in my chair, the glow of the screen flickering in the dark kitchen, feeling strangely detached from the scene unfolding. This wasn't some misunderstanding. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a full-blown affair. And worse, they didn't even seem worried about hiding it. I could have exploded right then, driven downtown, caused a scene, shouted for the world to see what kind of people they really were. But that's what they expected. That's what fools do. Instead, I smiled, because they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives.